One. Welcome to today's episode of WHT TV, where we're going to talk about some practical aspects to the PPP loan. With me today, I have Dana Brower. She and her husband Eric own Innate Chiropractic in Newburgh, New York. And I've asked Dana to join me today because she has actually gone through the application process and has some valuable information on what you need to look for and how to data mine some of the information. So welcome, Dana.
Hello there. So yeah, we are here today because Greg and I have been working on this since we found out it was passed last week, and I've been working with my bank, which I use Bank of America for everything, so a major bank in our country, and they have been pretty good with getting all the information of exactly what we're going to need for the application and getting everything prepped. And once we got that information from them of what is going to be needed by tomorrow, so we're talking about tomorrow, April 3rd, when the application should go live, it's a decent amount of work, and it's not something that, unfortunately, your CPA is going to be able to do for you in a timely manner and get it ready in time to get the application in. This is going to be a time of the essence situation for these applications. There is a lot of businesses that are able to do this and able to apply, but there's not an unlimited source of money, and definitely you want to be in the first wave to get your application in tomorrow or Saturday. I would say by Monday, I would think all these applications need to be finalized with as much as you can do. And with that being said, you know, Greg and I have been speaking about it, and I've been getting everything together, and it takes a bit of time. It took me a couple hours to get all of the documents together. So my advice is to start immediately today, tonight, tomorrow morning of getting everything. This is all stuff you can do on your own. So the big things that I'm going to go over what Bank of America is saying they are going to be requiring. Again, this could change, but this is what they announced as of last night to us via email from my personal representative there. Is they are going to need payroll for all of 2019 and 2020 year to date, month by month, in a PDF format. So for me, I use QuickBooks for everything. I know a lot of people watching this are probably using Gusto, and then some people are going ahead and using a major payroll company. For QuickBooks and Gusto, the big thing would be that you can download all of this to run reports, and you need to separate everything month by month. So you need to run a report, get your detailed payroll summary. So you can line by line item every single check that went out that month. And then at the end, it's going to give you a blurb with this is how much your overall payroll was. This was the net payroll, taxes, all of those things are broken up. And you're going to want to download that. It downloads as an Excel spreadsheet. And then you want to save it as a PDF and name it month by month. This is something you want to do right the first time, so you're not like me who thought Excel spreadsheets would be allowed and then have to convert everything over. So it's a time-consuming thing because you just have to run the report, save it, name it, and convert it. It's not hard. It's just something that you have to do, and it's going to take some time because there's 14 months that you have to do. That's one. Then the next thing would be healthcare costs. So all insurance premiums paid by the business owner or group. So what's going to happen is if you're in QuickBooks, which everyone's going to be in QuickBooks for record keeping, you go to your last year's, your profit and loss summary, and then there's going to be health insurance premiums are going to be one of those categories. You're going to click on that, you're going to print it out, and you're going to go ahead and print out the last 2 months for January, February, actually 3 months now, I'm sorry, January, February, and March. There's a reason why this is starting in April. You need January, February, and March. And you're going to go ahead and again export that as a PDF. Our bank is being really strict that they're going to want everything in PDF format. I'm thinking that's because of the size of the files. Then we are going to go to retirement funding. So that one is not something that you're going to necessarily be able to find easily in QuickBooks, but if you have a retirement fund, you should be able to email your administrator and get it easily. I got it back in 2 minutes. They're expecting this. I had 2019, 2020. Simple what our cost was as a business for those retirement funds and what we funded, and she sent it back to me in 2 separate PDFs really, really quickly. But I would get on your person today because tomorrow they're going to be inundated probably, and they're working from home. So keep that in mind. Bank of America is not asking for rent and utilities to be broken up at this point, but I'm assuming they're going to need it. So what I would do is I would also go into your QuickBooks, into your P&L, print, rent, utilities. I know it's set up like that already in QuickBooks. The firm has done that for you. Just get it done, get it all 2019, the first 3 months of 2020, so you have them on file in case you need them. So those are some things that Bank of America is asking for at the moment. They also said we may or may not need your personal and business tax returns for the last 2 years. If you're like us, our 2019 return has not been filed. So I know I have 2017, 2018 in our client folder. So I'm able to get that easily. Again, I don't have to email Greg for that. It's right there. But the one thing that I do know is that because we have not filed 2019, which some of you have not done either, is going back to our financial statements for 2019, I have from Greg that we have to get month by month. So make sure you have December's, the end of December 2019. So that is all your months. That's a good enough. That's good enough if you haven't filed your return yet. We used it just recently for a mortgage situation, and they told us that was more than enough. So if you have that ready, and then you have January and February's financial statements, that should be more than enough, more than adequate. I don't think they're going to ask for March because they know there's no way anyone's going to have that done by April 3rd. So those are some things of what Bank of America is asking for. Also, Bank of America made it very clear that this will be an online application. They are not taking phone calls. They are doing everything through email and online, and it's going to be through an online banking portfolio. So you need to make sure your online banking access. I wouldn't be surprised if the major banks all do the same. Again, if you're using a smaller bank or credit union, maybe not. But I'm sure Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo, those big ones are probably going to go through the same steps with that.
Let's touch base on a couple of things that are a little bit confusing, I think, to a lot of people. One is the 12-month look back on the payroll. Now, I've heard from multiple people that banks are asking for all of 2019 plus January, February, March of 2020. Clearly, that's more than a 12-month look back based on my math. But be prepared for starting in January, do it monthly all the way through the end of March. Go ahead and get that information in. Another bit of debate has been individuals who earn more than $100,000, and do they count toward the total payroll, average payroll, or not? Now, I've looked into this pretty extensively, and am confident that you can claim payroll up to $100,000. So somebody's making $125,000, $150,000, $200,000, you only take $100,000, divide that by 12, and that's your annual for those highly paid individuals.
Can you clarify that with payroll, Greg, that the payroll, when you're going to need to know this formula, it's about an equation, that so your gross payroll, including the payroll taxes, because I think that there's a lot of questions about, is it net or gross? I've
seen multiple places that we're just talking about gross payroll. We're not considering payroll taxes. So whatever your gross payroll is what it should be based on. Another thing that you have to do is, if you've applied for any other disaster loans, you've got to disclose that. You're not prohibited from doing that, but you just have to disclose it so the lender knows that that's out there. Anything else you can think of from a practical standpoint that people need to know?
Well, we have a lovely copy of the Payroll Protection Program application that is not going to be used by anyone, but it gave the bank something to base off of, I think is why the government released it. The things that are going to be important that you need is that average monthly payroll. So you need to do that math. So I think they're going to say, look at the 12-month look back. So that's going to be February to February, we assume, but it could be March to March. That's where we don't have the answer to that yet. That's the average monthly payroll, so your gross payroll. So don't worry, it's what you actually pay people. Don't worry about what was employer taxes, employee taxes. And you are going to take that number. So over those 12 months, it equals whatever, hundreds of thousands of dollars, divide it by 12. That's your average monthly. And then you're going to times that by 2.5. And that should be your loan amount. I think they're like, there's no options from what I've seen to pick a different amount, pick less. I think you need to just enter that amount.
That's right. Right? I agree with that 100%, yes.
And the number of jobs. So that's like number 3. They want to see that you have people employed. So you need to put down, I think, again, this is going to be average number over the 12 months? Because I think they're expecting that that could have changed. The way I'm assuming is if you had 15 employees one month, you're just going to add it all up, and 12 the next month, add it all up and divide by 12. Is that the way you're thinking it?
I am, but you bring up a good point, and what is really included in headcount. There are a lot of businesses that have part-time employees and temporary employees. So what are you counting? Are you counting a full-time equivalent, or how do you do that? From my understanding, you're just looking at total headcount. And if you think about the math on it, that kind of makes sense. Is if you had 50 employees and some of them are part-time, then your payroll total is going to reflect that anyway. So from an average standpoint, it doesn't matter if they're full-time equivalent or not, just headcount, which makes it a lot easier to calculate.
Yeah, and I think you just do it the average, because I think if it's 1 month by 15, 1 month by 13, I think you just add up 12, the last, whatever they decide the scope is 2019, 12 months. You add it all together, you divide by 12, that's your average. Same way you would get your number, that's your average of payroll employees. So it might be 12, 13, 14, 15, or whatever it might be if you're in that range. Then the next step would be, what is the purpose of the loan? You have the choice right there: payroll, rent, mortgage, interest, utilities, or other. I think for most people, you're checking the first three, or whatever, like payroll, rent and mortgage, and utilities. I can't imagine other being acceptable for this in any way, unless you have a specialty business that you can explain. But I think those three are what you're checking off.
I agree. I don't see any reason to put other down there at all. Other is for other types of loans that you may be applying for.
Exactly. And then the other things they really want, there's a lot, then the rest of the application is literally about the owners of the business. So they want to make sure that you're listing personally with social security numbers, whoever has at least a 20% ownership in the business. So for our situation, for certain things, and for certain professional corporations or PLLCs, it can only be the professional. So for us, it would just be my husband's name on there, because on the documentation, my name is not on there. So you want to match whatever matches your legal tax filings of who owns the business. This isn't a time to like add people or you think they might be on there. It is literally just the owner, because that's all they're asking for. And
yeah, I agree. And another point related to that is there's a clause that asks for other related businesses that you have. So you've got to, anything that you own more than 20% in, or one of your partners has more than 20% in, that's got to be listed. Now, I don't know that it really affects the calculation, but it's another one of those disclosure items.
Yeah, so be prepared for that. If you own multiple businesses, even if you're not filing for them, you need to list them. But if you don't have more of a 20% stake, just keep on moving, because they don't seem to care them, from what I'm reading. They really want you to go ahead, the SBA economic disaster injury loan, that needs to be highlighted, and you're going to need to provide details on a separate sheet. So if you thought about applying for that and haven't done it yet, I might not until you do this. But if you did it already, you have to give all the information.
One more thing that we've talked about a little bit, which I think is a really, really good best practice, is in the event that you do qualify for this loan and get proceeds in, keep that in a brand new bank account, and have the bank that you are getting the funds from open you a new checking account, direct deposit that loan amount in there, and then only pay payroll, rent, utilities for the next 3 months out of that particular account.
Yeah, we were talking about this morning. Definitely open a new bank account for this if you get it. It 100% needs to be kept really, really clear, because that's the only way you're going to get it forgiven as a grant. So
Right.
you need to have everything separate. I would totally switch everything over. This is why it should be the bank you bank with, because everything's got to be moved over to there for the next 3 months.
Right.
Because you need to document everything. And we don't know how strict the documentation is going to be, but at least starting it like that, at least you can give them bank statements that are really clear, and there's no questions of what's going on. With that being said, yeah, and that's kind of a really, really big thing here, is otherwise this could get really, really messy really quickly, and then people aren't going to get things forgiven, because there hasn't been strong guidance on what's going to be forgiven yet correct, Greg?
That is right, and I think obviously we'll get that as the as time goes by. But you know, first things first. First thing is getting the loan, getting qualified, and providing the documents. And keep in mind, you are providing the documents that the bank is asking for right now. It's the bank's job to qualify you ultimately for the loan. So they may come back and ask for more stuff, but you just go by the checklist as the best you can, and you know, the chips are going to fall where they may. Anything else practically you can think of right now?
No, that's really it. I know you mentioned earlier, and I know this might be helpful, is as for you guys, as whoever your CPA partner is with this, if after you actually get the application out to your bank, emailing Greg, whoever your CPA may be, and let them know I was able to apply for X amount of dollars on what date. And then that way you can follow up with, did you get approved or did you not? Because you guys are going to try to track this so we know how successful this CARES Act was, because we want to see if people are getting approved or if things aren't working out or things like that, so you can follow up with it, correct?
Absolutely. I think that's going to be some interesting information to see who's qualified, who gets the loan, and how much it's going to be. If it's 100% of what you asked for, is it prorated? Who knows? But it's
Yes.
interesting information.
Yeah, so like what we're gonna do is after we get the application out, which will hopefully finalize tomorrow and we can launch it out, I'm just gonna send Greg a quick email that says, hey, I applied on 4/3/2020. I applied for X amount of dollars and that's it. And then that way Greg can follow up with an email in a couple days being like, have you been approved? Have you not? Where are we at? And that way we can actually track if people are getting money from this and what the system is. Because again, that's the only way to ever keep anything accountable, is to know what happens.
Yep. Good information, Dana. Thanks for joining me, and we'll have follow-up, I'm sure, at some point in the near future.
Thank you.